The story of Paul Bunyan. Do you know, children? This story is about a character who is very big or very small. See, here in the text, fiction or non-fiction. This, after reading this, you have to tell me whether this text is a fictional or non-fictional. Children, do you know what is a fiction and non-fiction? This we have discussed in our previous class, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, what is fiction? Can you tell me?
Fiction means fake and non-fiction means not fake.
Yeah, fiction means imaginary things, right?
Yeah.
Cartoon and all these are all the imaginary things comes under fiction, and non-fictional, the factual things, right? Yes, the facts.
Yeah.
Abhignesh, are you getting? Can you tell me what is the difference between fiction and non-fiction, Abhignesh?
Ma'am.
Tell me the difference between fiction and non-fiction.
Ma'am, what you are telling, I can't hear you, ma'am.
Ah. So, children, fiction.
Ma'am, I can't hear your voice, ma'am.
Very good. Congratulations. Check, leave the meeting and join again. Maybe there is a network issue. So now, children, see, this story is about a character who is very big or very small. The story of Paul Bunyan. Paul Bunyan was the biggest baby ever born. He is the very biggest baby ever born. He is a good baby, but he was always very hungry. Very hungry. You can see, children, how big baby he is. Very, very big. As he can hold his house in his hand. See? Yes. So when Paul was hungry, he cried so loudly that the house used to shake and the windows used to break. Oh my God. Children, you ever cried like that?
No, ma'am.
No. Yes. So Paul Bunyan used to cry. Whenever he used to cry, no, the house used to shake and the windows used to break. So that much louder his voice. Now the frogs in the pond started wearing earplugs. See, the frogs in the pond, they started wearing the earplugs. Why are they wearing the earplugs? Yeah, because of the shouting of the Paul. Yes. For breakfast every day.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Which page, ma'am?
Very good. One more boy just now woke up. Good morning, Danesh.
No, I did not wake up.
Page number 126.
Ma'am, that global English, ma'am.
Yes. So see, children, what he will eat in his breakfast. He used to eat, see, yes, 12 eggs, a loaf of bread, 10 bananas, and 24 pancakes with lots of syrup. Pancakes were Paul's favorite food. Wow. Yummy. Children, you also try once to eat all this. Only in the breakfast. All these things you have to eat only in the one breakfast. That's it.
Ma'am, how it will be possible, ma'am?
But it is possible with shh. Shall I teach or not? Okay. So it is not possible for us, no? But Paul is a very big boy, big baby. He can eat them easily. And still after eating that, no, he used to feel hungry. Yes, Akshat? Okay. So Paul grew bigger and bigger. He grew 2 centimeters every day. By the time Paul was 7, he was taller than a tallest home in his village. His family decided to move north, where there would be more room for Paul to grow. So that house, where he used to live, that was so smaller. Now that is not sufficient for Paul. So the family decided to move to the north, where he can get lots of rooms and he can live there happily. I am sad. See here, Paul is sad to leave our little house. He is very sad. Paul is little sad to leave that little house. So what he did, you see, children? What did he do? He picked his little house and he started walking with the house to the new place. Wow, how nice it could be, no? If we also, can we do that? Wherever we are going, can we take our home in our palms?
No, ma'am.
No, yes. But he is enjoying that. So now, children, he will get a friend. Who is that friend? How he is going to go to the new place? How he is going to enjoy there? Let's see in a small video. Let us see. You want to see the video?
Yeah,
Yes. So let us
ma'am.
see a small.
You told that
Yes,
first
ma'am.
we can eat.
Oh, not minute. Just a couple of seconds, right? So here we go.
Ma'am, no screen came.
Children, video and audio both are clear? Good.
These are books about America, its history, its geography, and its heroes. But it takes a big book like this one to tell the story of American folklore. The tall tales about men doing big things in a big country. Men like Captain Stormalong, Joe McGarrick, John Henry, Pecos Bill, and the fellow who towers above them all, Paul Bunyan.
North America was a great big land with a great big job to be done. A job that needed a great big man. Paul Bunyan was the one. Hey, Paul, Paul Bunyan, Paul Bunyan. He's 63, axe handles high, with his feet on the ground and his head in the sky. Hey, Paul, Paul Bunyan.
My name is Cal McNabb, lumber, and the wind howled so, thought it was going to blow our town right off the map. Come daylight, I took a look to see what was left of the place. I spotted an odd-looking craft on the beach. That's where the howling was coming from. Hey, Ma, what in the world do you suppose that is? The howling roused the whole town, and everybody rushed down to investigate.
Never saw anything like it.
Looks like a big cradle. Now be careful, Cal.
Well, I'll be hornswoggled. A baby, and it's a whopper.
See how big, baby?
The whole town adopted him and named him Paul Bunyan. Everybody pitched in to supply his needs. They held sewing bees and knitting circles to make his clothes. Feeding him wasn't any small job either. I led the singing to put him to sleep at night. 1, 2.
You're only 10 axe handles high, but you
It wasn't long before Paul was big enough to go to school. He was a bright boy and never tardy.
Good morning, Paul. Good morning, children. Now everyone be seated. Will the first pupil to work the sum of 5 plus 2 rise and show the answer? That is correct, Paul. But for heaven's sake, don't raise the roof.
The boys would head for the swimming hole just as soon as the studies had ceased. Learn, Paul! Though young Paul was sometimes last, he surely never was least. Hey, Paul! Here he comes! Paul was
Going for the swimming.
though he loved to swim, what a time he had, what a problem me, oh my. When his front was in the water,
All
his
water
back
came
was
up.
high and dry. How about a dive, Paul? Hey, Paul, Paul Bunyan.
Christmas was a big event in our town. We had our tree in the town square. On account of Paul, I handed out the presents. You kids ready? Well, here's something for Johnny, for Susan, and for Paul. Here's a gift from the whole town. A double-bladed axe. Paul took to cutting timber like a duck takes to water. Before long, our sawmills had enough timber to last a lifetime. That opened plenty of new farmland. And our town grew so fast it got to crowding Paul. So one morning, we weren't too surprised to find a note in the square. And plenty of room. Love, Paul. P.S. I'll write soon. We're gonna miss that boy.
I am Chris Crosshall, straw boss of a logging crew in the Middle West. I will...
So you saw, children, how big the baby is? Yes, he's so big and very difficult to feed that such a big, yes? Now, ha, and one second. Where we are? Yes.
Paul Bunyan. Even as a baby, Paul Bunyan was mighty big. How big? Well, he was so big that his parents had to use a covered wagon for his cradle. As you might imagine, young Paul Bunyan had a big appetite. He gobbled up 5 barrels of porridge a day, and his parents had to milk 4 dozen cows every morning and evening just to keep his baby bottle filled. Paul was so big, it caused some problems in the little town in Maine where he grew up. When he sneezed, he blew the birds from Maine to California. When he snored, the neighbors ran out of their houses hollering, "Earthquake! Earthquake!" After that, Paul's father thought it might be better.
Whenever he used to cough or sneeze, the people, those who are living near to his house, they used to feel like earthquake. Birds go to California.
If Paul didn't sleep in town. He built a cot on a large raft for Paul and floated it off the coast. Paul slept on the raft for a few nights, but the floating cot didn't work out. When Paul turned over in his sleep, he created gigantic waves that knocked down houses along the coast. Eventually, Paul's father decided that the East Coast was just too small for Paul Bunyan. The only sensible thing to do was to move out west. So the Banyan family moved to Minnesota. In those days, Minnesota was full of logging camps, sawmills, and lumberjacks. Americans were moving west and building the country. They had to cut down a lot of trees to make their homes, not to mention their schools, churches, boats, and furniture. When he grew up, Paul Bunyan went to work as a lumberjack. And what a lumberjack he proved to be! He made himself a giant axe with a handle carved out of a full-grown hickory tree. He could bring down a giant tree with a single swing of his axe. As the tree tipped over, he would yell, "Timber!" So the other lumberjacks had time to get out of the way. Everyone looked up to Paul Bunyan, way up. The other lumberjacks were full of admiration for him. The bosses were grateful for the amazing amount of work he could do in a day. Paul had a big heart too, but one thing he always wished for was a true friend. There simply wasn't anybody else his size who could be his friend. That all changed during the winter of the Big Blue Snow. It was called the Winter of the Big Blue Snow because it was so cold that everyone shivered and turned blue. Even the snow shivered and turned blue. One day, as Paul made his way through the blue snowdrifts, he heard a muffled whimper. He followed the noise until he saw two big blue...
Something he's going to find now. Actually, he was missing a friend. As he's so big, no child is willing to play with the Paul because they are not of his size. Yes, so he used to feel like it would be good if I would have a friend. So one day what happened, it was very snow outside, it was very cool, and he heard some noise from the outside. What was that? We'll see.
Blue furry things sticking up out of the snow. He reached down and gave a pull.
See?
It turned out that the two big blue furry things were two big blue ears. And connected to the big blue ears was a giant blue baby ox. Paul exclaimed, "The poor little fellow is half frozen." Paul carried the blue ox home, wrapped him in blankets, and fed him. The baby ox was so content that he took a long nap in Paul's big, strong arms. When he woke up, he looked up at Paul, and do you know what he said? "Mama! Mama!" And then he gave Paul a big slobbery lick on the face.
What did he call Paul? This big blue ox called Paul as? Can you unmute and tell me what did he call?
Mama.
Yes, Mama.
Mama.
Yes. Now let's continue.
Paul laughed and said, "Babe, we're going to be great friends."
Woo! Adapted mind math! Come explore the site.
And they were. I didn't share the screen.
In fact, Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox were soon inseparable. Everywhere Paul went, Babe went too. The two of them worked together in the lumber camps. Paul chopped down the trees, then Babe hauled them to the river and dropped them in so they could float downstream to a sawmill. Together, Paul and Babe did the work of 100 men. The lumber company figured the best way to keep Paul Bunyan happy was through his stomach. So they hired a special cook to feed Paul and Babe. The cook's name was Sourdough Sam. Sourdough Sam was known for the giant flapjacks he cooked in the world's biggest frying pan. The colossal pan sat on an enormous cast iron frame.
And now listen, children. Paul and Babe, the blue ox, set out for a big forest. Yeah, they met a group of strong men and together they became a team of loggers. They become a team of loggers. They used to clean the forest. Why they were cutting all the trees? Can you tell me? Why were they cutting the trees? No, not for Paul. Hmm.
And for making a big house, making the city.
For houses and buildings to make a big city, right? So they made a big team and they started working together. And the men
Yes.
cut down trees with their axes, and Babe dragged the logs to a long, curvy river. The logs floated down the river to the town where they were sold. Now, Paul and the loggers worked as fast as the river filled with logs. The logs got stuck in the curves of the river. Paul hitched Babe to the end of the river. Babe pulled and pulled until the river was straight. See, children, is it possible to pull the river?
No, ma'am.
Yes.
No, ma'am.
Is it possible?